Europe just changed the game for artificial intelligence worldwide. The AI Act that took effect on August 1st, 2024 isn't just another regulation. It's the world's first comprehensive AI law with teeth sharp enough to bite 7% out of a company's global revenue. That's potentially billions for tech giants who don't comply. While most of us were debating whether AI might someday pose an existential threat, Europe quietly built a regulatory framework that's already reshaping how AI is developed and deployed across the planet. But here's what's fascinating. This isn't just a European story anymore. From Canada to Japan, governments are using the EU's blueprint as a template for their own AI regulations. Tech companies face a choice: adapt their global operations to meet the EU standard, or fragment their products by region. Either way, the AI landscape is changing faster than most people realize. The EU AI Act represents Brussels' ambitious leap from data privacy trailblazer with GDPR to becoming the global pacesetter for AI governance. It creates a four-tier risk system that determines which AI systems face outright bans, which need rigorous oversight, and which can operate with minimal restrictions. Let's break down what this means in practical terms. Starting February 2nd, 2025, less than 3 months from now, certain AI applications will be completely banned in the EU. These unacceptable risk systems include social scoring mechanisms, similar to those reported in some authoritarian regimes, untargeted scraping of facial images from the internet, and even manipulative toys that could exploit children's vulnerabilities. 6 months later, on August 2nd, 2025, the regulatory framework really kicks into high gear. That's when the governance architecture activates, including a new AI office within the European Commission and watchdogs at the national level. This is also when the rules for general-purpose AI models like those powering ChatGPT and Google's Gemini come into effect, along with the penalty regime that has executives sweating. What makes this regulation particularly impactful is its penalty structure. For the most serious violations, companies face fines of up to 35 million euros or 7% of their global annual turnover, whichever is higher. For context, that could mean billions for companies like Microsoft, Google, or Meta. Even for lesser violations, companies could still be hit with fines of 15 million euros or 3% of global turnover. The four-tier risk ladder at the heart of the act shows a nuanced approach to regulation. At the top, those 8 unacceptable risk applications are banned entirely. Just below are high-risk AI systems spanning 11 categories, including medical devices, critical infrastructure, and hiring algorithms. These systems won't be banned, but they'll need to pass conformity assessments, maintain quality datasets, enable human oversight, and register in an EU database. The limited risk category mainly targets systems that could fool users, like chatbots and deepfakes requiring transparency labels. And at the bottom tier, minimal risk applications like ordinary spam filters or video game AI remain largely untouched, a deliberate move to preserve space for innovation. Speaking of innovation, the industry reaction has been predictably mixed. For startups, bringing a single high-risk system to market could cost around 400,000 euros in audits, documentation, and testing. Many founders worry this paperwork burden could push talent across the Atlantic. Yet others appreciate having one EU rulebook instead of navigating 27 different national regulations. Meanwhile, big tech companies are engaged in a fascinating game of regulatory chess. Microsoft has been proactive, rewriting its internal responsible AI standard and publishing a public AI Act playbook ahead of the 2025 deadline. OpenAI launched European data residency options for ChatGPT Enterprise to address sovereignty and transparency requirements. In contrast, Meta has paused the rollout of its next-generation models in Europe, citing unpredictable regulatory risk. Apple has warned that its Apple Intelligence features might skip Europe in 2024 due to the overlapping complexities of the Digital Markets Act and the AI Act. The lobbying battle continues to rage. Amazon, Google, and Meta are making a final push to dilute transparency requirements for general-purpose AI before the code of practice becomes final. A particular flashpoint has emerged around how detailed the summaries of training data must be, pitting trade secrets against copyright concerns. Perhaps most remarkable is how this European regulation is creating global ripple effects. Canada's proposed Artificial Intelligence and Data Act explicitly cites the EU's risk-based approach. The OECD and G7 are referencing the EU framework in their AI governance toolkits. Even the UK, Japan, and Singapore, not typically eager to follow EU regulatory leads, have launched consultations on tiered AI frameworks that reference the EU Act. Several critical questions remain as we approach the 2026 full implementation. Will the risk tier stick, or will Brussels need to trim reporting burdens in response to industry warnings about excessive red tape? How will regulators balance transparency requirements against the protection of trade secrets? And perhaps most practically, will national authorities have sufficient resources and expertise to enforce such a complex regulatory regime? The bottom line is that the EU AI Act has fundamentally changed the global AI governance landscape. Its success will depend on whether the promised trust dividend, the idea that consumers will prefer AI systems they can trust, outweighs the heavier compliance costs. For global firms, the calculation becomes whether building once for Brussels effectively covers the world, creating a Brussels effect similar to what we saw with GDPR. Either way, AI developers everywhere face deadline pressure. The countdown clock is ticking toward February and August 2025, and the potential penalties aren't measured in mere millions but in percentages of global revenue. This makes compliance not just a legal necessity, but a fiduciary responsibility to shareholders. What do you think about this approach to AI regulation? Is Europe leading the way toward more responsible AI or creating barriers to innovation that other regions might exploit? The global regulatory landscape for AI is still taking shape, and the next few years will determine whether we end up with convergent or divergent approaches across major economies. The EU has placed its bet. Artificial intelligence needs guardrails to ensure it serves society safely and ethically. Now, we wait to see if this first comprehensive AI law becomes the global standard or just one approach among many.